Good evening everyone, I'm Elaisa Esrella, and my report is all about the introduction to the extinguishment of obligation. So, it covers the Article 1231 to Article 1237. So, Article 1231. Under Article 1231, binabanggit dito yung different modes of extinguishment. So, ang effect kasi ng extinguishment ay matuterminate or it will put an end to the obligation as if wala ng agreement between the both parties. So first, what is payment? Ano ba muna yung meaning ng payment? Pag sinabi kasi nating payment, it means not only the delivery of money, but also the performance. So dito sa extinguishment of obligation, um, hindi lang siya about money. Yung payment, hindi lang siya about money. It is also about performance. So, next naman, what is obligation? Pumapasok dito yung Article 1156 na ang obligation daw is a juridical necessity to give, to do, or not to do. So, ini-impose niya na ma-perform ni obligor yung duty niya, which is to pay the corresponding demand ni obligee. So, Article 1231 states that obligations are extinguished, number 1, by payment or performance. So, once na magbayad tayo ng utang, automatic extinguish na yung obligation natin na magbayad. So, kung meron tayong utang in cash at nagbayad tayo, payment yung tawag. Pag sinabi naman nating performance, isa yung obligation to do something. So, meaning, ipe-perform mo yung obligation mo. So, ayun. Number 2 naman, by the loss of the thing due. So, ito, very straightforward lang. Basically, it refers to a thing wherein ang obligation mo is to give a specific thing. At kapag nawala yun via fortuitous event, ma-extinguish yung obligation mo. So, number 3, by the condonation or remission of the debt. So, dito naman, from the word itself, condonation. So, meron tayong root word na donate. So, ang mangyayari dito, si creditor, wini-waive niya na yung right niya na singilin pa yung taong may utang sa kanya. So, hindi niya na i-enforce yung obligation mo na magbayad pa sa kanya, kaya siya tinawag na condonation. So, basically, parang dinonate niya na lang yung pera dun sa taong may utang sa kanya, kaya tinawag na condonation. So, example nito, number 3, si debtor may utang siya na 5,000 kay creditor na payable within 5 months only. Tapos, hindi pa dumadating yung due date na binigay niya, pero sinabi niya kay debtor na, sige na, wag mo na bayaran yung utang mo. So, in that case, extinguish na yung obligation niya na bayaran yung 5,000 within 5 months. So, ayun. Number 4 naman, by the confusion or merger of the rights of the creditor and the debtor. So, dito, when we say by the confusion, literal talaga na nagkakaroon ng confusion dahil sa characteristic ni debtor at ni creditor na nagre-reside sa isang tao lamang. Ewan ko kung possible rin to pero example kasi na nabasa ko is, anyari ako, nagpautang ako ng 100,000 pesos kay Agonia, tapos nag-issue ako ng promissory note sa kanya. Tapos, ang ginawa niya, binigay niya yung promissory note kay Kwento. Tapos, si Kwento naman, binigay niya ulit yung promissory note kay Abril. Tapos, si Abril, binigay niya yung promissory note ulit sa iba hanggang sa time na bumalik sa akin yung promissory note. So, basically, ang mangyayari, ako yung debtor sa promissory note na yun kasi in time, ako na yung may hawak ng note. So, ang nangyari, ako yung creditor ng sarili ko. So, nagkaroon ng confusion or merger of rights na tinatawag natin. So, in that case, may extinguish yung obligation ko kasi babayaran ko lang naman yung sarili ko. Babayaran ko lang naman din yung sarili kong utang kasi ako yung debtor sa promissory note na yun. So, basically, extinguish na yung obligation ko. So, ayun. Number 5, by compensation. So, dito naman sa fifth mode of extinguishment of obligation, both parties are creditor and debtor of each other. So, mabilis lang itong intindihin. Magbibigay na lang ako ng example. Example, may utang ulit ako kay Agonia na, may utang si Agonia sa akin na 10,000 pesos. Tapos, siya rin, may utang ako kay Agonia na 10,000 pesos. Tapos, siya rin may utang sa akin na 10,000 pesos. So, in this case, we no longer have debt to each other. Wala na kaming utang sa isa't isa at wala na rin kaming obligation na magbayad sa isa't isa. So, yung obligations namin, extinguished na siya at hindi na nag-e-exist kasi alangan naman bayaran pa namin yung isa't isa, 'di ba? Number 6 naman, by novation. Dito naman sa number 6, there is a change of obligation. Ang nangyayari kasi dito is yung old obligation mai-extinguish tapos magkakaroon naman ng new obligation. So, para hindi kayo malito, magbibigay ulit ako ng example. So, for example, may utang sa akin na 10,000 si debtor. Tapos, napagkasunduan namin, tapos sinabi ko rin sa kanya na instead na bayaran niya yung 10,000, ibayad niya na lang yung phone niya na almost the same value naman sa utang niya. So, basically, 'di ba, na-extinguish yung old obligation niya to pay 10,000 pesos in cash, pero may nag-arise na panibagong obligation which is to give his cellphone as a payment. So, ayun. Gets? Next man. Special modes of payment or performance. So, siningit ko lang to, pero hindi talaga to kasama sa report ko. Pero sige, didiscuss ko na rin. So, number 1, application of payment. Para mas mabilis maintindihan, magbibigay din ako ng example. So, let's imagine na meron kang utang sa iisang tao lang. Tapos, marami kang utang sa kanya. Tapos, nung magbabayad ka na, na-realize mo na kulang yung pera mo to cover all of your debts sa tao na yun. So, ang mangyayari, pipiliin mo na lang kung saang utang mo i-a-apply yung payment mo. Kaya siya tinawag na application of payment. Number 2 naman, dasyon and pago, or in English, dation and payment. So, ito naman, mode of payment siya na instead of paying in cash, you will pay in kind. So, pag sinabi nating in kind, non-cash asset yung ibabayad mo. So, for example, may utang ka na 20,000 pesos, 20,000 pesos. So, instead of paying in cash, what if ibayad mo na lang yung laptop mo sa kanya? So, pag nagkasundo kayo sa ganong payment, pag nagkasundo yung both parties sa ganong payment, ayun yung tinatawag nating dasyon and pago. So, number 3 naman, session and pago. So, almost the same sa dasyon and pago, pero dito, mas larger scale yung pinag-uusapan natin kasi sa nabasa ko, it involves properties like land, house, and transmission of ownership na dapat equivalent dun sa obligation mo or sa utang mo sa tao na yon. So, next naman is tender in payment and consignation. So, dito naman meron tayong two processes which is yung tender of payment tapos yung second is consignation. So, hindi ko rin alam kung possible to, pero based kasi sa mga nabasa ko, pag sinabi kasi nating tender of payment, ito yung act ng pagbabayad using illegal tender. So, pag sinabi nating legal tender, pag legal tender ang ipagbabayad mo, pwede mo nang ma-enforce yun. Pero, ano ba yung mga legal tender dito sa Pilipinas? So, basically, yung mga legal tender natin dito sa Philippines, ito yung mga denominations. Ito yung mga 20, 50, 100, 200, 500, and 1,000. Tapos yung mga coins natin. So, ano naman ba yung consignation? Pag sinabi namang consignation, ito yung act of depositing your debt in the court. So, bakit sa court pa? Kasi may mga instances na hindi mo kilala yung creditor mo or hindi mo siya mahanap. So, for the safety of the both parties, sa court sila magsisettle ng payment. Tapos si creditor, dun niya na rin kukuhanin yung bayad ni debtor sa court. So, next. Article 1232. Payment means not only the delivery of money, but also the performance in any other manner of an obligation. Payment may consist of not only in the delivery of money, but also the giving of a thing or other than money, the doing of an act or not doing of an act. So, when we say payment of performance, we refer to the fulfillment of obligation. But first and foremost, dapat dito sa Article 1232, meron muna tayong pre-existing obligation. Kasi kung walang obligation, wala rin namang babayaran and there's no payment to speak of in the first place. For example, may balak ako na kumuha ng installment na car. So, kapag pinaplano ko pa lang yun, tapos naghahanap pa lang ako ng options, pag pinaplano ko pa lang yun, tapos naghahanap pa lang ako ng options, wala pa akong obligation na dapat i-fulfill kasi nagde-decide pa lang ako tapos wala pang process of transaction na nagaganap. Pero, once na nakapag-down na ako, nakapagpasa na ako ng mga requirements, may obligation na ako na magbayad monthly para hindi mahatak yung card na kukunin ko. So, ayun. Dito rin sa Article 1232, hindi lang siya about sa payment ng money, but also by performance. So, kasi 'di ba, pag sinabi nating payment, ang unang papasok sa isip natin is pera. So, dito sa Article 1232, the fact na ibinigay mo and ine-expect sa'yo yung bagay na yon, that can be considered as payment. So, under extinguishment of obligation, yung payment ay hindi lang siya about sa pera, but it is also about giving, doing, and not doing of a certain act. So, dito sa Article 1232, yung payment at saka performance, synonymous words sila or twin terms sila kasi yung performance of obligation, it may also constitute as a payment. So, next, Article 1233. A debt shall not be considered understood to have been paid unless the thing or service in which the obligation consists has been completely delivered or rendered as the case may be. So, dito, under sa Article 1233, it answers the question, when was the debt considered paid? Or kailan ba nating masasabi na bayad na or extinguished na yung obligation natin? So, meron tayong two requirements of payment or two requisites. Number one is yung integrity of the prestation, meaning the prestation must be fulfilled and complete. So, dito dapat completely delivered na or rendered na yung obligation mo. Hindi na pwedeng partial or incomplete kasi otherwise, hindi may extinguish yung obligation mo. For example, nangutang ako ng 10,000 pesos sa isang creditor. Tapos, 9,000 lang talaga yung kaya kong ibayad sa kanya. So, kulang pa and wala pa talaga akong pera na ipapangdagdag para mabuo yung babayaran ko sa kanya na 10,000 pesos. So, yung creditor, may right siya na i-refuse or hindi tanggapin yung bayad ko kasi hindi ko naman na-fulfill yung obligation ko na bayaran ko siya or fully paid ko yung utang ko sa kanya. So, in that case, hindi ma-extinguish yung obligation ko kasi dito sa integrity of the prestation, dapat kasi completely delivered and rendered. Pero, later, may mga exemptions dito na mababanggit natin sa Article 1234 and sa Article 1235. So, another example dito sa integrity of the prestation. So, for example, si seller, inoblige niya yung sarili niya to deliver 50 sacks of rice. Tapos, pagdating ng delivery, 40 lang yung na-deliver niya doon kay buyer. So, kung partial payment or performance, hindi siya acceptable kasi dapat complete, hindi pwedeng kulang. So, si buyer, pwede niyang i-refuse yung delivery kasi hindi naman talaga complete or wala naman talaga sa napag-usapan nila yon. So, dapat dito, sa integrity of prestation, dapat completely delivered na or completely rendered na para ma-extinguish yung obligation mo. So, number 2 naman, identity of the prestation. Meaning, the thing must be delivered and released. The thing. So, ibig sabihin naman dito, dapat yung prestation mismo must be delivered and performed. Pag kasi sinabi nating death, 'di ba? It does not mean na may utang ka in cash, may utang ka na pera or what. Pwede rin kasi itong maging delivery of pating. Pwede rin itong to do an act or not to do an act. So, kapag may debt ka, ibig sabihin may corresponding obligation ka, which is to pay. So, it depends na lang sa both parties kung ano yung napagkasundoan nila na form of payment. Example naman dito sa identity of the prestation. Example, may obligation ako na ibigay yung car ko sa isang creditor. So, hindi mapufulfill yung obligation ko na yun kung ibibigay ko ibang bagay. So, in the end, hindi may extinguish yung obligation ko kasi kung ano yung napagkasunduan, ayun dapat yung i-perform or ibigay ko. So, dapat kung car, ayun mismo specific. Dapat hindi siya, dapat ayun mismong car yung ibibigay ko. Hindi pwedeng house, hindi pwedeng kung ano-ano. So, another example naman, si seller, inoblige niya yung sarili niya to deliver 50 sacks of rice ulit. Pero this time, jasmine rice. So, pag-usapan nila jasmine rice. Pero ang i-deliver niya kay buyer ay 50 sacks of sinandoming rice. So, complete yun, di ba? Kasi 50 sacks of rice. But, dito sa identity of the prestation, hindi yun acceptable kasi hindi naman yun yung napag-usapan. So, hindi acceptable yun kasi kailangan the very thing due must be delivered. So, ayun, kailangan yung jasmine rice yung deliver, hindi yung sinandoming rice. Next naman, Article 1234. If the obligation has been substantially performed in good faith, the obligor may recover as though there had been a strict and complete fulfillment, less damages suffered by the obligee. So, ito na nga yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, this article is also known as substantial performance in good faith rule. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na one of the exemptions sa general rule na dapat ang payment is complete. So, 'di ba? Sa Article 1233, yung requisites no na integrity of prestation na dapat complete kasi kung partial, hindi mai-extinguish yung obligation kasi nga, that's the general rule. So, dito sa Article 1234, in such a way, even if hindi naman talaga complete yung payment or performance, pero there is a substantial compliance in good faith, the debt is considered paid. So, meron tayong dalawang requisites. Number one is there must be substantial performance. Its existence depends upon the circumstances of each particular case. Number two naman, the obligor must be in good faith. So, ayun, number one is substantial performance. Number two naman is the obligor must be in good faith. So, hindi pwedeng substantial performance lang. Dapat in good faith rin. So, example, si seller, inoblige niya yung sarili niya to deliver 500 sacks of rice kay buyer. However, despite his effort, 400 lang talaga yung kanyang i-deliver kasi nagkaroon nga ng shortage sa supply ng rice. Pero ang ginawa niya, naghanap pa rin siya, tapos ginawa niya pa rin lahat para makakuha ng 100 sacks of rice pa. Kasi 400 lang yung kaya niya. So, naghahanap pa siya ng 100. So, ginawa niya talaga lahat. However, hindi talaga kaya. So, dito, since ginawa niya lahat, we can say that the seller really wants to comply with his obligation to deliver 500 sacks of rice. Pero, hindi niya talaga nagawa dahil sa reason na hindi naman niya kasalanan or beyond his control na yun yung shortage. Hindi niya naman kasalanan na may shortage sa rice. So, it shows good faith kasi nag-effort naman talaga siya and ginawa niya naman talaga lahat para makapag-deliver ng 500 sacks of rice sa buyer. So, dito, sa Article 1234, sinasabi dito na si seller, makaka-recover siya sa situation niya as though may nangyaring complete delivery. So, ang mangyayari, ililes na lang yung 100 sacks of rice sa babayaran ni buyer kasi pinakita naman ni seller na in good faith talaga siya to comply with delegation. So, ililes yun na yung 100 kasi alangan naman magbayad pa rin si buyer ng 500 ng full amount ng 500 sacks of rice and 400 nga lang yung na-deliver sa kanya. So, ang gagawin, ililas na lang yung 100 sacks of rice. So, ayun, the law would consider him to have complied substantially to what is required. So, parang ang nangyari, may valid payment na kahit substantial pa lang yung performance. So, ayun. So, Article 1235. When the obligee accepts the performance, knowing its incompleteness or irregularity and without expressing any protest or objection, the obligation is deemed fully complied with. So, again, yung sinabi ko kanina na another exemption to the general rule na dapat complete yung payment to extinguish the obligation. So, kahit na alam ni creditor na incomplete, dito sa Article 1235 kasi, kahit na alam ni creditor na incomplete yung payment, pero tinanggap niya pa rin without expressing any protest or objection, it is yung obligation, considered na yun na complied or considered na yun as paid. So, ayun. So, ito kasing ito kasing article na to, it is based sa principle of estoppel. Meaning, si creditor, stop na siya to question kasi nung nagbayad nga si debtor knowing na incomplete or irregular yung payment, tinanggap niya pa rin without any objection or any protest. So, ibig sabihin, parang wini-waive na ni creditor yung obligation ni debtor or wini-waive niya na yung sarili niyang right to reject the payment. So, hindi na siya pwedeng mag-reject na payment kasi nga, tinanggap niya without any protest. So, because of the acceptance ng creditor, kino-consider ng law na extinguished na yung obligation. Extinguished na yun kasi tinanggap naman ni creditor yung bayad ni debtor kahit na alam niya na incomplete or hindi or irregular yung pagbabayad ni debtor. So, dito sa Article 1235, meron tayong dalawang requisites. Unang-una, the obligee knows that the performance is incomplete or irregular. So, unang-una, dapat alam ni obligee na yung performance or payment is incomplete or irregular. Tapos, pangalawa, he accepts the performance without expressing any protest or objection. Yun, pangalawa nga, tinanggap niya pa rin without expressing any protest or objection. So, tinanggap niya yung bayad kahit na alam niyang incomplete tapos hindi siya nagreklamo. So, ayun yung Article 1235. So, let's move on sa balik tayo dito sa second paragraph ng Article 1236. Whoever pays for the another may demand from the debtor what he has paid, except that if he paid without the knowledge or against the will of the debtor, he can still recover only in so far as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. So, ano ba yung effect ng payment ni third person? Kasi wala naman siyang interest pero gusto niyang magbayad dun sa obligation, gusto niyang magbayad dun sa utang. So, kapag yung payment ni third person may consent from the debtor, si third person entitled siya na mag-demand from the debtor or pwede niyang singilin yung totoong may utang. So, pwedeng reimbursement or pwedeng subrogation. So, take note ha, may consent from the debtor. Kaya pwedeng mag-reimburse or mag-subrogate si third person. Si third person kasi nga may consent from the debtor. So, ano ba yung subrogation? Kasi pag sinabi nating reimbursement, pwedeng ibalik yung ibinayad. So, ano ba yung subrogation? Ibig sabihin si third person, pwede siyang mag-step up sa shoes ni creditor or pwede niyang i-exercise yung mga possible na gawin ni creditor. So, sa madaling salita, pwede niyang i-exercise yung right ni creditor. Pwede siyang magpataw ng penalty, tapos pwede niyang habulin si debtor na-acquire niya yung right ni creditor. Yon sa madaling salita, subrogation, na-acquire ni third person yung right ni creditor. Ngayon, paano naman kung without the consent ni debtor? So, ang sabi kasi, if he paid without the knowledge or the will of the debtor, he can recover only insofar as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. Yan. So, meron lang siyang beneficial reimbursement. So, walang subrogation. Si third person, pwede lang niyang ma-recover is payment to the extent that the debtor was benefited. So, example para mas mabilis nating maintindihan. For example, may utang ako na 1,000 pesos kay creditor. Tapos si third person, nag-insist siya or nag-offer siya na bayaran yung utang ko kay creditor. So, si creditor, syempre, meron siyang right if i-accept niya or hindi yung payment. Pero kung may stipulation naman na makakapagbayad nga talaga si third person, pwede niyang i-accept. So, for example, nga, tinanggap ni creditor yung payment ni third person. So, ang magiging question dito, magkano yung pwedeng ma-recover ni third person sa akin bilang ako yung may utang? So, ang unang scenario, for example, without my knowledge or without my consent or it is against my will. So, kung ganun, pwede pa rin siyang mag-ask ng reimbursement sa akin. Pero, for example, nakapagbayad na ako ng 500 kay creditor. Entitled na lang siyang maningil sa akin ng 500 kasi yun na lang talaga yung amount na babayaran ko 'di ba? Tapos yung another 500 half, pwede niyang i-recover kay creditor na dapat hindi naman talaga tinanggap ni creditor knowing na 500 na lang yung utang ko sa kanya. So, ayun. Tapos naman, yung second scenario, kung may consent ko naman. So, pwede niyang ma-recover sa akin yung 1,000 na utang ko with the rights of subrogation and reimbursement. So, meaning, pwede niyang ma-recover sa akin yun na mag-a-act siya as a creditor. Kasi, may knowledge ko naman alam ko naman na binayaran niya. So, ang mangyayari, pwedeng ma-exercise ni third person yung rights ni creditor. Pwede niya ring i-reimburse sa akin ng buo yung pera. So, Article 1237, whoever pays on behalf of the debtor without the knowledge or against the will of the latter cannot compel to the creditor to subrogate him in his rights, such as those arising from a mortgage, guarantee, or penalty. So, ito na rin yung diniscuss natin kanina sa Article 1236. Kung without my knowledge or without the knowledge of the debtor, if magbabayad si third person ng walang knowledge sa real debtor, hindi niya pwedeng makumpel si creditor to subrogate its right. So, meaning, walang subrogation na magaganap at hindi pwedeng ma-exercise ni third person yung right ni creditor. Hindi siya pwedeng magpataw ng penalty or hindi siya pwedeng maningil kay debtor. So, ayun. So, ayun lang. Thank you.